This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is the tipping podcast for round number 16, brought to you by Assure Strata Reports and also Buddy Oldman Masters Boxer. You can find both of them on Instagram, and they are the proud sponsors of the Paracave Podcast tipping competition, which is a very close competition at the moment, I must say. The top 8 is very, very close there, so every point counts at this point. But it is round number 16 of the NRL, and it kicks off on Friday night at Campbelltown Sports Stadium in Sydney. It is the West Tigers taking on the Canberra Raiders. Now, the Canberra Raiders obviously in second spot on the ladder, the Tigers in 13th. Now, for them, they have Fanua Pole returns from after 3 games three games out, I should say. Jeez, with a knee injury. Alex Twell, concussion. He's also back on deck as well. Good old Alex Twell. Let's hope he scores a try. Talon De Silva has been added to the bench for the Raiders. A very famous last name is making their debut for the Raiders. Jed Stewart, the son of Ricky Stewart, will make his NRL debut. So congratulations to the 23-year-old Jed Stewart. Hudson Young is also likely to back up after Origin on Wednesday night. Now, this should be an interesting game, this one, because last time these two teams played, and I think it was at Campbelltown as well, it was 48 points to 24 in favour of the Tigers. So, but obviously two completely different sides this season. And to that one, look, the form guide, well, the Tigers, they are 1 from their last 5. They went down by 4 points to the Panthers only a couple of weeks ago. They had the bye last week. 4 points to the Cowboys. 2 games there that they probably could have won. And the Raiders, look, they are the sneaky little green machine there in second spot on the ladder. They have only had 1 bye, which was last weekend, but 4 out of their last 5 games they have won. The game they lost was to the Bulldogs a few weeks ago now, 6 weeks ago I think it was, 32 points to 20. So they are certainly in form at the moment. Look, Campbelltown, look, are they a different side there? I know they are a different side at Leichhardt, the Tigers, but look, I think I'm going to tip the Raiders in this one. I just think the way that they're playing this season, they are a different side to last year, obviously. The Tigers, again, they are a different team to last year, and they are playing some pretty good footy. They're playing some pretty good footy. I like the look of this 5'8", Heath Mason. Jerome Luai is likely to back up at halfback for this game after Origin duties. You've got Api Coruscant as well, Terrell May. So, look, I think I will stick with the Raiders, though, in that one. The next game of the weekend sees only the one game on Friday because there is under-19s men's and women's State of Origin on Thursday night. So, if you can, catch a glimpse of that because there is some future NRL stars amongst those and NRLW stars as well. So under 19s, Queensland versus New South Wales from the Sunshine Coast. on the Thursday night. So one game on the Friday. Warriors and Panthers on Saturday, 3 p.m. over there in New Zealand at Go Media Stadium. So, look, this should be an interesting one. Kurt Capewell, he will be rested after Origin, apparently. So, that is you could say a big out for them. But I guess just during this period, a lot of travel as well for Kurt, obviously from the New Zealand Warriors to Brisbane, from Brisbane to Perth, Perth to Auckland, so a lot of travel as well. So probably the smart move to give him a bit of a rest after this game, and a pretty sort of short turnaround as well. The Panthers, they've also chosen to rest their Origin stars as well. So the big guns, Dylan Edwards, Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, Brian To'o, Liam Martin. But Lindsay Smith will probably play, so he is only a backup member of the New South Wales side as well. So in that case, Dane Laurie will line up at fullback. Paul Alamotti comes in on the wing. Brad Schneider, as he has done plenty of times in the past, goes in at halfback. Isaiah Papali'i starts in the back row. Matt Eisenhuth comes in at lock. Liam Henry, he returns from suspension on the bench as well. So, yeah, look, probably the smart thing to do from both of these teams. As I said, a lot of travel for these, especially the Kurt Capewell from New Zealand, but the Panthers players as well, going from Sydney to Perth, Perth to Auckland. It is a lot of travel, so probably the smart thing to do. Look, this one will be with those outs. It'll be a really interesting game. I mean, last year at the same venue, it was 22 points to 20. The form of these two sides, the Panthers, they're slowly sneaking up the ladder, but they had the bye last weekend. They beat the Tigers by 4. They beat the Eels by 8. They lost to the Newcastle Knights. Now, that was an Origin-affected game as well. A draw against the Cowboys and a win against the Broncos. Now, the Warriors as well, they are the other form team of the competition, you'd have to say as well. They are in third spot on the ladder. They are favourites going into this game. They've won 4 out of their last 5 games, only having lost to the second-place Raiders. 16 points to 10. Look, I'm going to tip the Warriors in this one. I just think the home ground advantage will be that, exactly, an advantage for the Warriors, only having the one player out in Kurt Capewell, whereas, look, we have seen in the past the next man up mentality of the Panthers, but I just think it'll be a bit more of an advantage for the Warriors. So I'm going to tip the Warriors in that one. The next game on the Saturday is at 5:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, but 3:30 local time, because this game between the Dolphins and the Newcastle Knights is played at HBF Park in Perth. So a couple of games of top-class rugby league in Perth this weekend, which is probably good for those people over there. Get a taste of it now, especially with the Bears coming in the competition in 2027 as well. So a lot of hype, rugby league hype around with the Bears coming into the competition. So a couple of games of rugby league there. But the Dolphins take on the Knights. Now, pretty handy for the Queensland representatives from the Dolphins. The Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. So he will obviously just stay in Perth. And Kalen Ponga for Newcastle. He'll obviously just stay in Perth as well after the Origin game. A couple of days off there until the Saturday game. So I dare say these two sides will probably go over to Perth as well a couple of days before the game as well, just to acclimatise, but also do a bit of promotion work for rugby league as well. But as I said, for the Dolphins, Hammer, he is back Jake Avarillo, who was playing fullback, goes back to the centres. Felice Kafusi, he's suspended for a couple of weeks, so Mark Nichols, some would say the GOAT, starts the game in the front row, and Harrison Graham is added to the bench. Now, good news for Isaiah Katoa, the young halfback who is killing it. He will captain the side for the first time, so congratulations to him. For the Newcastle Knights, Dom Young, who played at the Roosters against the Knights last week, is now a Newcastle Knight. So a mid-season transfer there. So he is back at the Newcastle Knights. So he is back on the wing. And good news as well, because Bradman Best is back from a hamstring injury. Fletcher Sharp, he goes back to 5'8". Tyson Frizzell, he is back as well. So a lot of backs, players coming back for the Newcastle Knights, getting slowly back to full strength there. Look, the tail of the tape, the Dolphins, wow, 138 points I think it is in 3 games against the Cowboys, Dragons and Bulldogs. Slightly going down to the Warriors. 4 out of their last 5 game wins. They had a bye last weekend. The Newcastle Knights, they went down 12 points to 8 against the Roosters last week. They beat the Sea Eagles 26 points to 22 in Golden Point the week before that, and lost to the Dragons. So 2 wins out of their last 5. Look, the Dolphins, they will keep this roll on. I don't know if they'll put a 50-point score on the Newcastle Knights, because they are strengthened a little bit now, the Newcastle Knights, but I think they will keep the roll on, so I will go for the Dolphins in this one. Now, the next game, the last game on Saturday, 7:35 p.m, sees the Rabbitohs take on the Melbourne Storm at Accor Stadium. Latrell Mitchell is back. Cameron Munster has been named for the Melbourne Storm, along with Harry Grant, Trent Liero, Xavier Coates and Stefano Utokumanu. So the only change is Bronson Garlick comes onto the bench. For the Rabbitohs, Latrell Mitchell, as I said, is named to come back. We also have Campbell Graham, who is out, unfortunately. He's listed amongst the reserves, but as is Cody Walker as well. So I don't know if they will play or not, but they are listed along their reserves, along with Keon Kolamatangi as well. So that'll be interesting to see if they play. Lewis Dodd comes into halfback for his 4th game of the season. Jaden Sullivan has suffered a calf injury out of that one. Look, I don't know what to make of the Rabbitohs. They're coming 14th at the moment. The Storm go into this game as favourites, as you would expect, being in 4th position. Alex Johnston, will he get another try and get closer to that try-scoring record? Probably. But I just think the Melbourne Storm, they had the week off last week as well, so they're fit and ready and raring to go. Look, a lot of these games are Origin affected in terms of players coming back, so it all depends on Wednesday night if they come through these games okay. But at this stage, I will tip Melbourne anyway as well to get the job done. Sunday sees 3 games being played on Sunday, an early, a mid and a late game on Sunday. So it all kicks off at 2 p.m. The Broncos take on the Sharks up there at Suncorp Stadium, 2 p.m. For the Broncos, Pat Carrigan and Payne Haas have been named to back up again. So again, it just depends on that Origin game. Ben Hunt is still sidelined with that hamstring injury. For the Sharks, Hiroti, he's done a calf injury. So Sifa Talakai, he moves to the centres. Daniel Atkinson joins the bench. That's the only change that beat the Dragons. So, look, big test for the Sharkies. I think they're in 5th, the Broncos in 7th. The Broncos go into this game as favourites, probably because of that Suncorp Stadium, but the Sharks got the win last year, 22 points to 12, and then the Broncos got the victory in 23, 20 points to 12 at Shark Park. So each have won at their last other's home ground. The Broncos, they had a big win, 44 points to 14 against the Titans 2 weeks ago. One win from their last 4. That was the Black Dog Institute game where they had the black jerseys that night. So they were on fire, Katoni Staggs especially. For the Sharks, they beat the Dragons last week, 30 points to 18. Couple of big losses previous to that to the Warriors and Roosters. 3 wins out of their last 5 for them. Look, this is going to be a big test for the Sharks to see their credentials in this competition, because the way that these two sides are playing this year, you would think that the Sharks could get this victory. But the Broncos, probably the bye might have hurt them last week. They had that big win against the Titans, but maybe just to freshen up a little bit as well. I like the look of their back line. They've been playing reasonably well. As I mentioned before, Katoni Staggs, Reece Walsh, he'll be only as better for that run against the Titans 2 weeks ago. Adam Reynolds playing his 301st game, I think it is. So, look, it could be a bit of a toss of the coin, this one. I'm going to tip the Broncos. Simply because they're at home. Probably if it's a nice day up there in Brisbane, it will be a big crowd. 2 p.m. on a Sunday. I'm going to tip the Broncos in that one. The Roosters and Cowboys are the next game that is on the Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Sees the Roosters, they have their Maroons representatives, Robert Toya and Lindsay Collins, coming back, and also the New South Wales trio of Connor Watson, Angus Crichton and Spencer Leniu have been named to play. Should they come through the game unscathed, as I said, it all depends on that game. So Mark Nwanga-Nitawase, he goes back out to the wing with Robert Toya coming back. And also with Dom Young going to the Newcastle Knights as well. So Victor Radley and Egan Butcher have entered the concussion protocols. The Cowboys, they are expecting their Origin representatives to back up in this game. It's a crucial game for the Cowboys. They have been so up and down, I think, even losing at home as well. So they have been so up and down. The Roosters are in 8th spot. The Cowboys now find themselves in 10th. So, look, I think the last few weeks, the Cowboys have got smashed by the Dolphins, smashed by the Storm. They beat the Tigers only by 4 points. That was at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Roosters, they got 3 wins out of their last 5. So a 12-8 win over the Newcastle Knights. They went down by 2 points to the Raiders late in that game. They beat the Sharks convincingly. They only went down to the Bulldogs by 4 points. So, look, you would have to say probably on form that you would tip the Roosters and getting those players back as well. Look, they played reasonably well against Newcastle last week. Didn't score a try until the 60th minute last week. But I think this week will be a lot different. I actually think, too, at this game, it is being played at Allianz Stadium. I think there is a emergency services discount or something like that that the Roosters are putting on for the emergency services. It could be free tickets or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. but I think they did it last year. I'll have to find out a bit more information about that one. But so hopefully there is a big crowd out there on Sunday. I'm going to tip the Roosters in that one. I just think the Cowboys, they are a little bit up and down and all over the place at the moment. Who knows, maybe this game could be the game that they get their confidence back and get a victory. But look, at this point in time and for this weekend, I am going to tip the Roosters. The next game, 6:15 p.m, sees an early spoon bowl. Well, no, not really, because I don't think Parramatta will get the wooden spoon. That could be the little bit of bias coming out in me, but it is Parramatta taking on the Gold Coast Titans at CommBank Stadium. And look, we start off with the home side and big loss of Mitch Moses with his calf injury. Dylan Brown is suspended. Joash Papali, he comes in at 5'8", and Dean Hawkins goes back into the 7. Zach Lomax, he will back up again after Origin 2. Wiramu Greg is added to the bench as well for his first NRL appearance since round 24 last year. For the Gold Coast Titans, Big Tino Fasul Malawi and Mo Fotuaika have been named on the interchange bench as well, backing up. David Fafita has been named as 18th man. Jojo Fafita returns from a hand injury in the centres as well, so Brian Kelly makes way. This is the return of Regan Campbell-Gillard to CommBank Stadium. It is the first time that he has played Parramatta since leaving them last off-season. So that will be interesting, especially the battle up against Junior Paolo as well. They are great mates, but it will be interesting to see who gets the victory there. The biggest thing will be Joash Papali as well at 5'8". How will he go? Massive raps on him, and this is his first starting game. Well, when I say starting game, his debut game, he came on after, I think, 3 minutes anyway, but the first game at 5'8" in the top grade, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes with Dylan Brown suspended. Look, I'm looking for a big game from Will Penasini, to be honest. He has struggled a little bit this year, so hopefully he can get back to that form that we know he can have. The Gold Coast Titans, they had a big victory against the Manly Sea Eagles last weekend, 28 points to 8. The Parramatta Eels, we had the bye last week. Previous to that was the King's Birthday Monday game. We lost to the Bulldogs 30 points to 12. The week before that, 18-10 down to the Panthers. So 2 wins out of the last 5 for Parramatta. Look, Parramatta haven't been playing that bad. They just haven't been getting the wins. It's just not adding up into points. The Titans, they've struggled. They're 2 wins out of their last 5 as well. They have scored more points than Parramatta this season, but they also have let in more points than Parramatta as well. 390 to Parramatta's 336. So, look, hopefully it's going to be interesting to see what sort of a crowd there will be as well. A 6:15 game on a Sunday. It's a late game on a Sunday. Trains aren't working apparently, so that's going to be one hell of an interesting thing to get to and from the game at Parramatta. So look, it's going to be, and the Gold Coast are coming last, so look, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of a crowd will be there. But look, I am going to tip Parramatta, no surprises there. I just think at home, even though with Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses out of this team, I just think, look, they will be those two halves especially will be playing like their life depends on it, I think, and we could see some points scored from both of these sides. Last year, the Titans got the victory at home, 24 points to 16. The previous game to that was 2023. That was 25 points to 24. So that was a very close one as well. So I think there will be a lot of points scored in this one. I am going to tip Parramatta as well. Surprise, surprise. So for my tips and the Bulldogs, Dragons, and Manly have the bye this weekend. So for my tips this weekend, they are the the Canberra Raiders over the West Tigers, the Warriors, Dolphins, Storm, Broncos, Roosters, and Eels. So let me know what your tips are and how many I'm going to get out of 7. But they're my tips. So follow them if you dare. I did get 4 out of 5 last weekend, as did Ella, 4 out of 5 as well. And I dare say most people probably got 4 out of 5 as well. It was a pretty sort of easy round to tip. It was only that Gold Coast victory which probably threw a lot of people, and they didn't get their perfect round. So, look, some really interesting games, some good tussles, you could say. The Dolphins and Knights, the Warriors and Panthers, that probably will be the game of the round, I'd say. The Warriors and Panthers, even though all these players are being rested, I still think that could be the game of the round. The Broncos and Sharks, that could go close as well. Two sort of, I wouldn't say desperate teams, but teams that will want to win. That's not to say that any other team won't want to win, but that they want to stay in the top 8, those two sides, and potentially get to the top 4. And obviously the Eels and Titans, well, they don't want to finish last. So that will be a big game. I will be there. If you see me, come and say g'day. Let's chat Parramatta and NRL, whatever you want to chat about. I will be there. Come and say hi. I don't bite. I am a very nice person, so I love to talk rugby league. Anyway, that is the Paracave podcast, tipping podcast for round number 16. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram, the Paracave Podcast, and also on Facebook as well. And also share it with your family and friends. And on Apple and Spotify, YouTube as well. You'll be able to find it. Subscribe to the Paracave Podcast, and then you'll know when it does drop. You won't miss a thing. The Paracave Podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! How you going, mate? Are you a Paracave Podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.